It seemed like, just a regular day. It was just a Monday, it was like nothing special about it, and then all of a sudden you step outside and you're just surrounded by FBI agents, police, people walking around with shotguns in their hands.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawton, America's biggest jewel thief. Join me as I walk you through my past robberies, how I planned them, executed them, and ultimately got caught. I'm going to show you how we did things in prison, like making a tattoo gun, making wine, making white lightning. It's going to be very educational. These are the untold stories.
My last day of freedom before I went away. My last day, the actual day the cops raided my house, the helicopters over the house. You're going to hear from a couple of young kids that were there at the scene, so that's going to be interesting as well. Before I get started, please check us out on the member program of Patreon, the member program of YouTube. Check us out on Discord. Please check out merch out. Let me let you know the exact thing that happened. It was early December, and when I got arrested, it was on a Monday, and I'll never forget the day, of course. Monday was my bookmaking day. Monday was the date where I got my football tickets ready. People who the books ended on a Sunday as far as gambling goes, and I had a computer system in my house. This is in 1996 now. And I had a computer system in my house, the best at that time, and you guys will laugh about this. It was a 6-time modem and 8 gig and all this the best at that time. Remember, this is 96. So, and I really didn't even know much about it. The kid next door, Matthew, who ended up working for me, and the two kids you're going to hear from today, those young guys did a lot for me, and they remember that day as well. Because the day I just found out, by talking to both of them, the day really, it hurt them. I didn't know how much of a father figure I was to them. I knew they were close to me. I tried to steer them away from crime. Yes, even back then when I was a criminal. I didn't want people to, get involved in the life I was in. And here's two young kids. Now one's 41 and one's 40. Makes me feel old, I'll tell you that. That's number one. But anyway, so these young guys, you'll hear from today on how they felt the day I was arrested. Because, I got up and it's a regular day. It's a Monday. Now, you have to remember, 30 days or so, maybe even more than 30 days, I had that wild getaway from the last robbery in Fairless Hills where I was shot, my brother was shot, I had a bullet just squeeze through right here, trickle me, give me a surface wound there, my brother has the bullet, boom, hit him, and here it is. Now, when we come back after that, we didn't hear anything. I thought everything was starting to bypass, although I had this inkling or twinkling that something was wrong because I got all the stuff that was important in my house out, whether it was guns or whatever it was. I got them out of my house. So I always did have it in the back of my mind that something had happened. But this Monday was a regular Monday. I get up in the morning and I do my normal routine. I get coffee, I sit on the patio, I read the paper. I made some phone calls that I had to do to New York and to other places and see kind of my schedule. I had my guys check in with me. Tommy checked in with me. Junior checked in with me. Jimmy checked in with me. My brother checked in with me, seeing what's going on, what's on the agenda for that day. Here it is in December. It's getting ready for Christmas. And, I'm ready to, help with a lot of things with my wife. Gave her money already so she can go shopping, did all that kind of stuff. And at the time, if you remember, I had a 15-month-old baby. Ashley, my daughter, was only 15 months old. My son at this time is in New York back again, and he's 7 years old. So I get up, I do my normal routine. Missy's doing her routine. She gets the baby breakfast. We're going. I got certain people. I make my phone calls, and I got my brother coming in from up north. Now, my brother's staying up in the Melbourne, Florida area, and he's running the bookmaking up there. And so he comes down every Monday, and I give him new tickets, and his guys, I have to know who's doing what, how much who's owed. There's back and forth, the bookmaking end of it, who we're going to loan money to get loan sharking money, all of that stuff ready. So we do that. So, I make my phone calls with my brother. I know my brother's coming in town now, which is okay. That's perfect, And I enjoyed that because it's important that he came into town. So my brother's coming into town, and we're starting to get... Now, things don't start getting going in those houses until about 10 in the morning. I mean, I'm an early bird. I always an early bird, and I'm getting ready. Like I said, made my phone calls, Now my brother's coming in town, and I have a new computer, so I'm actually going to try to learn this new computer. And it's funny because Matthew, the young kid, didn't come in because I was going to teach my brother how to do this stuff on the computer. That would have never worked now that I think about it. But anyway, so he was going to do that, my brother. So here it is now in the afternoon. I'm hanging around. I have lunch. I go make like I said, phone calls. I go check on stuff. I go to the warehouse. I make sure everything's okay there. Everything's ready. I'm just doing nothing. Junior checks in. Junior used to check in every day, man, and he was great. So now here it is. About, in the afternoon, 12 o'clock, my wife has to go shopping. So Missy leaves shopping. We leave out of the cul-de-sac. She leaves. She comes back, 2 hours later, whatever it is. She says to me, she says something funny. She goes, I think I was followed. I go, what do you mean you think you were followed? She goes, yeah, I think I was followed. And I'm saying, all right, now I'm worried about more things than the cops. Remember, as a wise guy, I'm worried about somebody wanting to kidnap me or, take me and try to get money out of me. That was a common thing back then. Drug dealers were shaken down or robbed or taken hostage, and the money was given up and the drugs were given up. I always worried about more of that than even the cops. Although you're worried about the cops, especially since the incident in Fairless Hills, the last robbery. So here I am. She says that, and I'm keeping an eye on things. And before even this day, I had all the kids in the neighborhood looking out for FPL trucks or delivery trucks that are there too long. And I used to tell the kids, go up to them. Try to, see if in there, because then you'll expose them if anybody's in there. But anyway, so this day, I'm on edge a little bit, but I'm not too crazy on edge. I understand what's going on. This is my life. I stay cautious. Had guns all over the place. It wasn't like I was worried about somebody coming in and, trying to kidnap me. You're going to have a shootout. Because I did have guns all over the place. So anyway, and I used to carry them. So anyway, here it is about 3 o'clock. And now I had a neighbor. One of my neighbors used to be a head chef in a really fancy restaurant. And he used to bring home like boxes of lobster, boxes of steaks, I mean the best steaks you can get, and sell them to me. So I knew he was stealing the lobsters. Everybody did their own hustle, if you want to call it that. So he'd bring out a case of lobster. I'd give him whatever it is, $40 or whatever. I don't know what deals we made. But he used to come, and he knew he had a place to get him out. He was a head chef, and he wanted money. That was his hustle. Anyway, so he'd go. We'd always have a barbecue. I'd have people coming down. Now, my brother's coming down from the Melbourne area, so he gets to the house, about 3 o'clock, my brother. So he's got a couple of guys with him that work for him. So he brings them with him, just regular guys. And we're all hanging out. Now we're starting to drink. I had a 9-foot bar. You'd walk into the house, and you'd come in, it'd be a pool table. Kitchen to the right, and then it'd be a pool table. And then to the left of the pool table, up front towards it, I had a nice computer area set. Now behind the pool table area, there was a 9-foot bar going out to the patio. And in the front of the pool bar area, there was a living room area with a big screen TV, lounge, Barker lounges or whatever they are, the recliners and love seats and all that kind of stuff, so people could, watch TV or whatever they're gonna do. So anyway, it's about 3 o'clock, and my brother's down, and I'm gonna teach him how to work the computer. So I'm sitting at the computer station at that point, and I'm right there, and all of a sudden, Missy comes out, and she's gonna go get the mail. It's about 5 at night. She goes and gets the mail. She has my daughter Ashley in her arms. So she heads to the mailbox. I don't think anything of it. All of a sudden I hear the words, They're coming, they're coming. So I jump up out of the chair. I'm like, what? I jump up and the door flies in and there's guns pointed at me and the black ninja suits, but I do see a badge. So I do see a police and the badge and all that. But a lot of the drug dealers were robbed that way, you know, posing as cops or whatever. So my mind is still not going yet. I turn around to run towards the patio, and there's cops coming through that in the ninja suits. And I just go like this. So they come in. Now, when you walked out the door, there had to be 15 undercover cop cars all over the place. Now lights on, everything's on. Over a helicopter's overhead. You hear it overhead. And they take everybody who's in my house out front. Now, they got me. I later find out they had a warrant for Larry Lawton, any excessive jewelries, any excessive cash. So that's what they had a warrant for. So they couldn't do anything. Because on my bar, there was cocaine and there was marijuana. I mean, not crazy amounts, only personal use or anything like that. And marijuana right on the bar, right on top of the bar. The bookmaking material, which was the tickets and sheets of people who owe. You know, we had a big loose leaf sheet. Never touched it. Never touched it. They had a warrant for what they got, and they came to get it. They were the FBI and the DEA, not DEA, FBI and Marshals, and they don't play. But they were pretty nice. I can't say they were bad people. So when I get out, I mean, I come out, everybody comes out now. They take me away right here. Now, they have everybody lined up in front of the house, right up against the wall. And they ask for everybody's ID. Everybody. So they get all their ID cards, and they got me already. They know who I am. They took me, they got me in handcuffs already, and they sat me on the curb in front of my house, right on the curb. I'm handcuffed, and they were nice. The FBI agent, the lead guy, Matt Mullen, he says to me, I said to him, hey, listen, I got some money on me, my watch and sneakers. Can I give it to my wife? You know, I'm going to jail. And he goes, sure. I take $3,000 out of my pocket. I had $3,000 on me. I had a nice pair of sneakers. I think it was the Jordans, the new ones, or whatever they were back in those days. And she went and got me a shittier pair. And I took off a Rolex watch. And I took off a ring and all that kind of stuff I had. And I just gave it to my wife. And I'm sitting there handcuffed. And they're going through the people who are against the wall. Now they're pulling their IDs. Now, I'm thinking, okay, what is this? Is this organized crime stuff, something else? Is it the jewelry robberies? I don't know yet. I have no idea myself. And sure enough, I'm thinking, they don't arrest my brother. So I'm thinking, is it the jewelry robbery? But they didn't arrest my brother. I mean, okay, so here it is. My brain is racked, and I know not to say anything. Obviously, I'm not going to say a word. And so they dismiss. They give them their IDs. They write them down. They give them away, and they let these guys go. Now, they didn't touch bookmaking equipment. They didn't touch drugs, minor, but not drugs. So I'm like, okay, it's got to be something very big, like organized crime, bigger. But you'd think they'd still get that. And the jewelry, that was my big thing, which nobody knew. Nobody knew what I did. It wasn't like they knew I was a gangster, but they didn't know what I did as a gangster. So here I am, I'm handcuffed, and the helicopter's overhead, that leaves. They put me in the back of the car. They were very nice, I have no complaints. They take me down to Opalaka. Opalaka, where there's an air station, Opalaka, they have an FBI headquarters. And at the time, they had the new machine where you put your hand down and it takes your prints that way, in a special way. Because they did both of my prints in hands. And I ended up finding out they did get me on that because they ended up having a palm print on a jewelry case that I jumped. No fingerprint, palm print, but they do match the palm print to me. Not that I might have thought just that if it was just that, but it wasn't. So anyway, I'm now gone. I'm getting taken away. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and maybe, about 5 o'clock. And I always wanted to know what happened, when I was gone, or what the people around me, what happened to them. And now you're going to hear from Chris and Matt. Hey, Matt, your name's Matthew Waring. You're now how old?
41.
41. Wow. I knew Matthew, everybody, when he was 15 years old. Him and his brother was a year younger than him, I think.
Yep.
They used to be my neighbors, and they ended up kind of working with me, or working for me, and making money, and they were growing up a little quicker than they should have, seeing a lot of things maybe they shouldn't have. So Matthew, that day I was arrested, was it a regular day for you?
Yeah, it was. Actually, it was a little bit different than a regular day. I remember clearly, and to borrow one of your catchphrases, I'll never forget, it was a Monday, because Monday I used to come over and you and I would print out the football tickets. And I have really strong memories of doing that, because we used to print so many football tickets that we would burn out printers. Like, we used to have to go to the Office Depot and return printers every 2 weeks. So it was a Monday, and I would come over after school, and we'd print out the football tickets, cut them up, get them ready. But on this day, you called me right after school and you said, "Hey, you don't got to come over today, because your brother David was in town and you were going to show him how to do it." So I was like, sweet, I get the day off. And, I think it's a good day. I don't have to work, because we used to put in long hours on those Mondays, because we had, thousands and thousands of those things we had to print out. So I was just, kind of vegging out, watching TV. So yeah, it started off with me thinking, hey, great day, bonus, what a pleasant surprise.
I bought the best computer, the modem, the whole works. He set it up pretty much, and then I'd have guys coming from down south, from South Florida, from North Florida, from West Florida, coming to pick up the football tickets, what Matthew was telling, and we would cut them up, and then they would come back, and we had a bookmaking outfit going all over the place. And every Monday is Matt's right, and it was a Monday, so it's a good memory of when I was arrested. Now, you went to school. I was arrested at I think it was about 5 o'clock at night. Were you home when I was arrested?
Yeah. I'd just been home for about an hour. And I was watching TV. I put a movie on. I had the TV up really loud. So I actually didn't hear everything go down at first. So I was caught completely by surprise. Chris was outside. So Chris saw everything happening. I know he was the one who called out to Missy. But for me, I didn't hear anything going on. Next thing I know, there's a knock on the door, and I go and answer it, and there's a gentleman standing there in a suit, and a guy standing next to him in what looked like, a life preserve. I didn't connect the dots, and it was a bulletproof vest. But then he flashes his badge in my face, says he's Special Agent Russell with the FBI, and then I noticed that the guy next to him was holding a shotgun. And that, completely caught me off guard. I had no idea what was going on.
So when they came to the house at that point, what did you see when you came outside?
Yeah, he asked me to step outside. They didn't ask to come in. So I stepped outside and I looked over, and I saw, a bunch of different agents kind of coming in and out of your house. And they were trying to ask me questions, but it was I don't know, it's hard to explain, when you kind of know your world is crumbling down, and you it's almost like the feeling you get right before you get faint, where your hearing starts getting real quiet. I see a bunch of FBI agents kind of coming and going out of your house. I see Missy standing out there, tears streaming down her face. I see you getting put into the backseat of a car. It was just images that are just burned into my brain.
It's funny because they actually closed down that whole complex from the front of the complex at that time, and it was oh my God. And again, my neighbors, even you, knew I was a gangster and knew everything, but you didn't know the core. You didn't know, oh wow, he's the biggest jewel robber. That was never connected, but everyone thought I was into drugs, into gangster stuff and all that, but nobody knew the actual hard crime, so to speak, if you want to call it that. And nobody met my connections. I made that important no matter what. So nobody ever dealt directly with my guys. Nobody. So nobody could have said I gave him money or I did something. But I put a lot of trust in you young guys, and always with the caveat that I try to let you. It's kind of weird. I was that kind of guy that was a bad guy, but I didn't want to see you or your brother get caught up in something stupid either. You know what I mean? Make your choice, make money. You're gonna have to make choices in life. But I didn't want to see you go to jail. So I never put you, even the football tickets. That I take the heat for everything. I took the heat for everything. And you saw all the crap in my house. I had that long 9-foot bar, and used to have drugs on it, and everything. That whole place was a zoo. I mean, what a party house, huh?
We used to bartend. Me and Chris bartended for almost all of your parties.
Yeah, I had you guys used to bartend and clean up, and boy, you saw the crazy women running around that place. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun place. Nobody could ever say. And do you remember the warehouse?
Oh yeah. I remember, when it was being built. Chris, I was the brains. Chris was the brawn.
Yeah.
So Chris put in a lot of work helping build the place. I just kind of stood around, and you made me office manager. So I took care of the bills, answered the phones and things like that, while Chris was painting behind me and pushing them up and getting paid $1 less an hour than I was.
Okay, let's get back to the day I was arrested.
Yeah.
So you don't remember hearing the helicopter over the head? Or do you remember hearing cops, or do you remember what did you?
Not when they first got there, no. As I was watching TV pretty loud, like Chris has a great recollection of he was outside in front of the house when it happened. But once I came outside, stopped the TV, and came outside, saw the helicopters. That's kind of when the reality of everything came crashing in. Like it was such a weird, unexpected shock, like it to your point earlier, it seemed like, just a regular day. It was just a Monday, it was like nothing special about it, and then all of a sudden you step outside and you're just surrounded by FBI agents, police, people walking around with shotguns in their hands.
They had the masks, those hoodies over there, some of them that came through the patio in the back.
Yep.
They had those ninja suits.
Yeah, all the breach
stuff.
Team, they were coming through. They came through the patio. It was crazy. It was insane. I remember coming to you a few days before talking about, the ice cream truck that was parked behind the house. That you told me to go try buy ice cream from them. They told me to get lost, and it was I just remember it was odd because there was an ice cream truck parked behind our house at like 8 o'clock at night. Nobody's buying ice cream at 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I remember that kind of gave you a little bit of a caution, and you seemed a little bit spooked by that.
Well, there was also, I was spooked. They had an FPL truck. One of the young kids in the neighborhood, you guys, I don't know who it was, all the kids. Remember I painted the football field and everything. But they said, hey, Mr. Lawton, there's a FPL truck working over there. And so I always had it in my mind. And Missy, the day I was arrested, said when she went out to the store, she goes, I think I was followed. And I said, what are you talking about? And she was, obviously. And then when she came back, nothing happened for a while. And then later we did it. But I want to get back into you here a second, Matt. After the fact that I was arrested, you're out there. Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Special Agent Russell, the guy who gave me his card. He was the one who started questioning me.
Do you remember any of the questions?
Yeah, I remember quite a few of them. He first started off just trying to spook me a little bit by saying, he has pictures of me with you, and they have phone recordings from my house because you used to come over, use our phone every once in a while if you had to make a call you want to make from your phone. So they said they had phone recordings. They started asking me a lot of questions about, you, what was my relationship with you? And I remember I told him, I said, I don't know. He pays me a couple bucks to show him how to use the internet, teach him how to pay his bills online, things of that nature. And then they started asking me a lot of questions about Junior. I remember they want to know where Junior was. So they asked a few questions about him. they asked where my parents were, and it was at the time my parents were starting to separate. So my mom had actually moved out, and my dad worked evenings, so nobody was home. I was 17, almost 18 at the time. So they were asking where my parents was and asked if my parents would call, and I never told I never told my parents to call. But I just remember them being interested in Junior, and then Junior coming and walking around while all the agents are still there and everything, and none of them had the attention span to notice that the guy they were asking about was walking around, the parking lot right while they were all still there.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. That is hilarious. After the cops, like after you spoke to the cops and he leaves you, I remember giving money, $3,000 in my pocket that I gave, and I had my Rolex and all that, and I gave it to Missy. They let me do that, and they even let me switch my sneakers to shitty sneakers because I know I'm going to jail. And so I wasn't there long, if you remember. They kind of they didn't have me hanging around long. And after that, now when they left, how long were they there?
It seemed like a very long time, but I know it wasn't. But it was just like you're sitting there, and it's almost like, it's kind of a traumatic experience. Like you were somebody that was like a father figure to me that I looked up to a lot, and a large part of my life at that time. And when you're that age, your life is relatively short. Was spent with you, working with you, and the stuff that I you took me to a lot of like places and nice restaurants and things that I'd never really done before. So, I knew that my, not to be dramatic, but my life was kind of like crashing, like my parents had just separated and now you were getting taken away. So we were all kind of sitting there in shock, and it just seemed like forever. But I know it wasn't that long because I don't even think it was completely dark by the time they left.
What was the neighbors out? Was people talking? What was it like then?
Yeah. After like kind of the dust settled, meaning me, Chris, Junior, we kind of got together and, try to go, check on Missy, make sure she was okay. And then we started talking, and, I guess, everybody in the neighborhood knew that we had a close relationship with you. So everyone was coming to us, trying to get information, like asking what happened. And it was pretty close knit. Like everybody knew each other at the time. And so everybody was coming out, like, it was just like, the talk of the town, and everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. And, we just like, just telling everybody we didn't know, we didn't have any idea what was going on. It was a surprise to us. We were like, that was one thing we were good at when we were kids was keeping our mouth shut. I think that's why you liked us.
Yeah. I think I trained you well, or I liked you for that. You're right. You guys, great. You guys stayed to yourself. You made money. You did the right thing. You saw a lot of things. Did you ever think anything like that can happen? Did you ever, in your own way, say, I wonder what can happen, or what can happen? You watch movies, you watch stuff. Did that hit you in any way? Or was it afterwards, oh shit, I see that now?
We always knew it was a risk. You talked to us about it. It was never like a serious sit down, like, hey, this is what you say if this ever happens. But you asked us, you're like, if you're ever getting questioned by the cops and they ask you this, what would you say? And I remember, you were saying, if they ever took you and Chris and separated you guys, and said, well, Chris told us everything, and how would you respond to that? And, it was relatively close to this time. So I feel like, prior to that, when you're a kid, you can obviously sense some danger, but you think you're indestructible, right? Like you don't think, nothing's going to change and the sky's the limit. So you don't really think too much about it. I never spent a lot of time, and you were always very cautious, like you weren't, you were careful about who you exposed, even, the stuff that Chris and I knew about you too. You always kind of kept a layer between yourself and a lot of the stuff that you were involved in. And you were dealing a lot with guys that you knew, like your brother and Jimmy and us and Junior and, Tommy and stuff like that. So to us, it seemed like you were really careful, and especially, me being the person who helped you pay your bills and got you set up and, you know, paid your bills every month with the computer and stuff. And you were always careful about how much you paid on what, like, or how much you paid on your credit card, like never wanted to pay too much or never wanted to put too much money in your bank account. So to me, it always seemed like you were being extremely cautious. But of course, you know, I didn't know anything about the whole jewelry aspect of it. So it was definitely a shock, you know, like that was probably one of the most shocking things that's ever happened in my life, was opening that door to just like pure chaos, you know, like going from 1 minute watching TV to the next minute having a guy standing in front of you holding a shotgun, and seeing, you know, somebody that you care a lot about being stuffed in the back of a vehicle.
Did they tell you what happened?
No.
Did they tell you what I was being arrested for or anything?
No, they never said anything. And in fact, I didn't know until you told me in a letter, because I'd asked. I still never knew. And it like, I didn't want to be insensitive, you know, and ask Missy, you know, like, I'm not that nosy, you know, obviously I cared about you and wanted to know what was going on. But at the same time, I'm sure Missy was tired of answering, you know, to everybody who asked. So I never wanted to ask her it. And she didn't stay for much longer after you left. But you know, we had corresponded when you were in prison, and, you know, you were the one who told me, you know, you didn't say anything about Jules, but you said, you know, that as far as you knew was a racketeering charge.
What about your parents?
Yeah, my parents, I don't, you know, they didn't really know too much either, you know, like, I think they thought the same thing, you know, mob ties and, you know, like gambling and loaning and that sort of stuff. Cause, you know, you told them enough about the bookkeeping and stuff like that. And, you know, I for me, having to help you with, you know, I know you used to, when you'd be out of town, you'd call me 7 o'clock in the morning, have me go over to your house and pull the Vegas odds to send over to Tommy. So, you know, my parents, you were always open with my parents. You didn't want me like disrespecting my parents or, you know, going around their back. So, you know, that much they knew about the gambling stuff. And, you know, I don't think they really knew anything about drugs, and they certainly didn't know anything about the jewels. You know, like even at that age, I was, you know, old enough to know that this is like one of those moments in your life where it's never going to be the same after this. You know, like, this is it. There was your life before this happened, and then there's your life after this happened. And I wasn't even the one going to prison, you know, but just how much of a part of my life you were at the time, and knowing that, you know, there's like, when somebody leaves, you know, it was very much almost like a death, you know, like, it sounds morbid, but, you know, when somebody leaves or moves or something like that, you know, it's coming, you get time to say your goodbyes, you know, but when somebody dies and it's sudden, that person's just ripped from your life, you know, and there's a big hole left, and you got to kind of figure out how to move on from there. And that's what it was like, you know, you were just completely pulled, you know, straight out of my life. And it had a big emotional impact. Like, it was rough to get over, having to try to, like, you know, reintegrate myself back into being a kid and caring about kid things. Cause it's hard to care about, you know, somebody sneaking a drink out of their dad's liquor cabinet, you know, when on the weekend, you know, you're making a couple $100 a night bartending a party for, you know, some gangsters.
You know, that's funny. You know, you just said a few things, which really, you know, it always affects me because I always cared about people. Is that, you know, now that even knowing that put some emotional stuff on kids, and I hope people learn that, you know, your choices have a bigger impact than you think. Anybody's does. But, you know, I used to talk about you guys, even though I had the kids, these kids were great. And I used to say that, I said, how can these kids, you know, they're going to be like, oh, look, hey, we're going to steal this beer and we're going to go drink it. Where you were bartending with a bar full of all the best liquor and drugs in the world, and you're right there. It's like, oh yeah, like, big deal. And you never said anything. You were guys mature enough to, like, not, you know, spread the word at school or wherever for that matter. You know, that's pretty able to do that.
I'll say, you know, going through that stuff as a kid, you know, seeing that stuff and learning, you know, how to make smart decisions about what you were doing that may not have been, you know, on the right side of the law, actually wound up keeping me out of trouble as I got older. You know, as a, you know, older teenager or young, you know, in my 20s, when kids are starting to get into trouble and trying to do some dumb shit, by the time I got to that point, I did the stuff I had seen and done when I was a kid was way past that. So I was never really one to get into kind of those kind of shenanigans, which kind of helped me maybe be a little bit more successful getting older, because when my friends were getting into trouble, drinking and all that stuff, it was old news to me. It didn't really hold a candle to some of the stuff I had done earlier. So I'm 41 years old. I've worked at the same place 20 years, built a career there. So I started right when I was 21 years old, and worked there ever since. And while I had friends, bouncing from job to job, getting into trouble, I'd been there, done that. And I think it helped me really hunker down and not go on some of those adventures that they were going on, because it doesn't really compare to what we had already done up until that point.
I want to thank you, and I'm proud of you. I'll say that. I always was. I always will be. You guys, you always know I'm here and always can ask me for anything, And you guys, I remember writing you when I was in prison. So I wrote a lot of people.
Yeah, I got a stack of your old letters right here, as a matter of fact.
Oh my God, keep them. But I want to say, hey, thank you for coming on. Thanks for experiencing it. I'm actually sorry that you had to go through that. Part of me always says, people say, what do you regret in life? I don't regret anything, because whatever happens, regret's a wasted emotion. It is what it is. You have to make the best of it, turn your life around, do whatever you do in life. All of us have to do that. And you've learned so much that I feel a part of that, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also feel a little bit, hurt that I had to put that hurt on you, especially at a time when you were going through some rough times, with your family and stuff like that. I remember that. So, and I don't like that, I just, but it also makes you better. I always believe that, if you're able to see things and learn from them, whether good, bad, or indifference, that's the key to life. Why make the mistake if I made it for you, and then you don't have to make it, so to speak. And then, and that goes for everybody, we all grew up in the environment we are, but you made the best of everything of your environment, which is great. So I want to thank you, Matt, for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, I'm with Chris Waring, who is now 40 years old. Chris was, I think, 14 when I first met him. When I went to prison, I think he was 16 or 17.
Yep.
Do you remember that day?
Yes, that's like one of the most prevalent days in my life.
The day I was arrested. First of all, did you know what I did?
I did not at all. I had no idea that you were a jewelry robber.
Now, you knew I was involved in organized crime and all that. When you found out what it was it like a shock?
Yeah, it was. Because, I guess I was just naive. Like, I thought just because you were connected that you just had money. Like, I didn't know you did anything other than just have money and, be a cool guy.
Now, the day I was arrested what do you remember about that day? Give me your recollection of that day.
All right, so I was outside. You know how we always played football out front. I was out front. I remember Missy pulling up, and it looked like she came from the grocery store or something. So usually I would always go over there and help her. And so I went over there and asked her if she needed help bringing anything in, and she had Ashley with her, so I grabbed whatever little stuff she did have, and I went inside with her. I think I had an ulterior motive because I wanted to play football on your computer. So I helped her inside, and I asked you if I could play football, and you and Davey were at the computer, and you said, when you guys get done with the football tickets, that, I could play. So I got done with that. I went back outside, and Missy ended up going outside to check the mail. And I went back and was, throwing the football with my friends. And as she was walking back from the mailbox, I seen a line of cars coming in, and thought it was strange at first because they were all kind of the same kind of car and had tinted windows and everything. And by the time Missy made it back to getting it close to your car and your front door, they started pulling in, and people started jumping out, and so I was just shocked. And I heard Missy say, "Larry, they're coming!" They all ran around the back. Some ran around the back, some ran in the front, and I was shocked. And the first thing I thought of was Junior, So I was like, I didn't want him coming over. So I went in my house and I called Junior and told him not to come over. And he was like, why, what's going on? I said, the FBI's here, Larry's getting arrested. And he goes, well, I need to be there. I need to see what's going on. So I was like, Junior, do not come here. I don't know if they're looking for you. Because I had no idea what they were arresting you for. But he ended up coming right over and walked straight in your house when you were sitting out on the curb with Davey. And he walked straight in your house and then ended up coming straight back out and walked over to me. And I was just confused how they didn't even stop him or anything.
Well, afterwards, you knew why. They had a warrant just for me, for diamonds, for cash. They never found my safe that was upstairs, but they had warrants only for that. That's why they didn't even arrest Davey then. They only had my warrant and Tommy's actually. And they got Tommy because I met him down at the FBI headquarters, and then I got rid of him by telling him he didn't know anything. When you saw the cops coming, like you just played football in the streets? Because I remember you guys always telling me, and you guys to give me heads up, hey, there's an FPL truck there, or...
Well, yeah, because when you came back, I guess you came back from New York, and you were like, you pulled us in the house, and you were like, hey, tell the kids in the neighborhood, if you see any kind of truck sitting around that looks like it doesn't belong, like a plumber truck sitting there for too long, any delivery truck sitting there for too long, you were like, just go up and look in the windows. You were like, because if you look in the windows, then, their cover's blown, so they got to move or whatever. So, like, it seemed like you knew that the heat was on you, because that was only, like, weeks before. When they took you guys away finally, we were all in the house talking, and Missy called the house, and I answered the phone. I was going to say call me like we had cell phones. So she called the house, and I answered the phone, and she was just crying, like, bawling her eyes out, and she goes, Chris, I don't know what to do. She's like, I don't know if they're going to come back. I need you to come over. So I went over to the house, and I guess it was the safe you were talking about that they didn't find. She had like a ton of jewelry, and she goes, I need you to take this stuff. I don't know if they're going to come back. I don't want them to take it. So like I took all this jewelry to the house, and it was like watches and rings, and I mean, that day, like I said, when Missy called me, and I wish I was a little older when she called me over, because when I got there, she was just losing it, like crying, and she just, wanted me to take the stuff. I was like, I wish thinking back, I was like, she really needed a hug at that point, and, I'm like some 16-year-old kid, so I just wanted to get out of there, because she's upset, and... So, I took the jewelry back to the house, and, I just was in awe with all that stuff, and, I hid it away. Well, first, like I said, I put it all on and was looking in the mirror.
That is funny.
All gangster. Yeah. So then I quickly took it all off and put it back in the bag she gave me, and put it in my closet and left it in there until she called back for it.
So when they take me away, what did you do? What was the first thing you did?
Well, I got back with Junior and was calling him stupid for showing up, because we had no idea why you were getting arrested, and
right.
I didn't want him to come there and get arrested, and so we were just talking about what happened, and what is going to come of it, and we didn't know how long you were going to go away or anything, so we were just confused, and of course it was like the talk of the night for sure.
To this day, I am proud that you guys turned out good guys. You really did. You turned out, good family men, good people that take care of their kids or whatever they do, and you don't judge people. You didn't judge me. You don't judge other people. There's none of that in you. There's no prejudice in you. You guys, it's good to see. That young kids that, I never want, to this day, that's why I do what I do a lot. I don't want to see young people get stupid, One, they can't do the time. They're going to come out not stronger or better, obviously. I'm a rarity there. And then they ruin their lives. And you affect more lives. I'm even learning that now, Chris, that I affected you and your brother. Like your brother said, it was really hard because you left, you know, it was that time like oh my God, it's like our whole world was coming down. You know, used to, you know, come home from school, and Matt used to do my football tickets and the computers, and you used to always do something, working, making money, whatever. You always did something, cleaning, bartending, going shopping, do whatever it was, you know, going with Missy. And but it's a good feeling that you guys you know, came out so good. I mean, as young kids that were around a lot of crazy shit when you think back about it. I mean, you know, kids your age that weren't around that, from drugs to sex to crime, you name it. It was, you know, that was a nut house.
Well, I think it was, you know, I seen that you would have fun and you would get crazy, but there was always like a real professional side of you. And, you know, you would turn that on when you need to, and you would have fun when you need to, you know. So, I think to me that was a lesson to me. And also you just would always, like, if I would start acting up, you know, like try to be like a smart ass or whatever, you'd always put me in my place. You'd always be like, don't get cocky.
Yeah, and it is true. I always did that. When business was business, whether it was robbing or whatever, it was always business. I remember putting a gun to Jimmy and David's head and telling them if they ever came around here with that drug, I'd kill them both. And they knew I was serious. So, I mean, there were certain things I just knew that were something to do. I think that was because of the guys I grew up with, obviously. And then you try to pass those things on. And then, okay, getting back just to the day we're doing it. And when everything settled down. Do you remember that part when they left and they took me? Were people still there? What were they doing? And then when they left, what was it like? Holy fuck, what was it like?
Like, I hate keep going back to the word shock, but like we were talking about, you were such a big part of our life, and to just suddenly be ripped away. I mean, because every day when I'm at school, I would be thinking about, you know, what's going to happen when I get home? Like, what is Larry going to need me to do? Or, you know, where am I going to go with Junior? Or, I mean, because we would pick up, you know, like people in the limo for you from the airport. And so, I mean, it was every day I would come home and see what was going on with you and what we could do. So just you getting pulled out like that quick and that sudden was like, you know, I mean, just, I couldn't believe it, you know. And I mean, that's kind of how me and Matthew were talking about it. And, you know, of course the neighbors were asking, you know, like, oh, what's going on, you know. But, you know, we would always just, you know, like, nothing, don't worry about it.
So now those guys, I want to thank Matt and Chris that they're, you know, listen, I love those guys. To this day, they're doing great. I tried to give them good advice. I mean, you know, yes, as a gangster, but, you know, I guess I always had that heart. I had a pretty good heart. So anyway, so Matt and Chris, thank you for coming on, just talking about them. One day I'm going to bring those guys on. We're going to have a great video. They got some stories too. We started catching up again, and that's what was good about this. So anyway, here I am now getting processed in Opelika. I see Tommy. Tommy worked for me. He's in the book, Fat Tony, I call him, but he was Tommy. And Tommy is down in the same headquarters of the FBI. Now, the reason they arrested Tommy is because I ended up using Tommy's credit card to rent the cars. I used to rent cars, never under my name. So when they look him up, Tommy was a very big guy at the time, and they'd look him up, and that's not him, that's not what he robbed me, whatever. But this time I was the co-driver of the car. Now, I didn't know all this at the time. That's how deep they went. So anyway, they processed me, Larry Lawton, at Opelika, and they really didn't ask me a question. What people don't understand is they never read me my rights. And you wonder, what do you mean they never read you your rights? Cops don't have to read you your rights. You do know that. As long as they don't ask you a question, they don't have to ask you your rights. These cops weren't asking me a question on who is that guy, what are you doing, we got you. Not a word was said. In fact, they were nice guys. We were talking about the weather or whatever the hell we were talking about. It was just an obnoxious conversation to make small talk. And they were nice guys. Well, when we got down to the FBI area where they do the handcuffs, Tommy was there, and I saw him go in, and Tommy didn't know anything really, except that he rented the cars and he told what he's supposed to, because I told him to do that. He's not, and they let him go. They saw it was legit and they let him go. They processed me to floor 7 East. Never forget, 7 East. They can look that up. And that's the floor that I was processed on, and I didn't get processed till past midnight. So that full day for me was a shock day. Now, people want to know how I felt when that happened. Let me tell you something. It's part relief. I know that sounds weird, but it's part relief. And also shock, because now your brain starts kicking into, how do I get out of this? Am I going to get bail? Who do I call? What's the lawyer? I mean, I had that down. I knew lawyers. I knew all that end of it. So my big thing was, what do I do next? What's up? What do I do? But that relief also is, you knew you were a criminal. You were either getting killed. I mean, one good part of it was there were cops. Because if they were wise guys or people trying to kill me, you don't know you're going to get away. You don't know if you're going to get away with it. Because they might kill you. They don't give them money, you don't do something, they'll kill you. So talk about an eventful day. I had one hell of an eventful day. My last day of freedom before doing that long stretch was a day I'll never forget. Which, a lot of things I'll never forget. But that I'll really never forget. So don't make the choices I made. Be like Chris, be like Matt, and change your life. They saw a lot and they still changed their life. I gave them a lot of respect. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my last day of freedom. That was from the morning I got up until I went to bed after midnight. And I never got out of prison after that until 2007. So, have a great day, everybody. Make good choices, please. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed. And pass these on. Put them in your playlist. Help us out in some way you can. We'd really appreciate that. You guys have a great day, everybody. Much love, much respect for everybody. Stay safe and live life.